Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany, and I am the Events and Workshops Coordinator at the Asian American Writers Workshop. For those of you who don't know about us, the Asian American Writers Workshop is devoted to the creation, publication, development, and dissemination of literature and storytelling by Asian diasporic writers. Since our founding in 1991, we have worked to provide an alternative literary art space at the intersection of migration, race, and social justice. As a community of artists and activists, AAWW stands in support of those in the fight to end police violence, as well as the anti-Black racism that fuels that injustice. You can find out more about our programs and mission at aaww.org. For tonight's event, we are highlighting and encouraging donations to Colectivo Intercultural Transgredendo, a social organization that promotes the development of comprehensive cultural and social health of trans people with gender diverse identities in the United States. Recognized nationally as a bilingual multicultural movement, Colectivo defends and promotes the human rights of trans people to build a fairer and more inclusive societies for all without any discrimination. You can find a link for donation in the chat or visit their website at ourvoicesarefree.org. What brings us together tonight is Ulanday I Barrett in their second collection, More Than Organs, released earlier this year by Sibling Rivalry Press. We are thrilled to host this launch reading featuring Kay and the tremendous poets ahead. Thank you for joining as we celebrate poetry's ineffable call for empathy and care. Tonight's ASL interpretation is provided by Brandon Kazen-Maddox. Brandon Kazen-Maddox is a grandchild of deaf adults and third-generation native signer of American Sign Language. Having received his Master of Fine Arts in Dance and New Technology from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts, through his multimedia ASL production company, Body Language Productions Incorporated, Brandon collaborates with and provides opportunities for deaf artists who share his passion for bringing artistic works of American Sign Language dance theater to the stage, screen, and beyond. Joining me in emceeing tonight is our first poet of the evening, Ashna Ali. Ashna is a queer Bangladeshi poet raised in Italy and based in Brooklyn. Their poetry has been published in several independent journals, including Nat Fruit, Heart Online, The Felt, No Dear, Ginger Mag, and more. They serve as assistant professor of literature at Bard High School Early College, and they are currently working on their first book manuscripts. You can find them on Instagram and Twitter at Dr. Dishtu. And here's Ashna.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Thank you to the Asian American Writers Project for making this possible. And of course to Kay for this beautiful book that we have the honor of celebrating together. I will be reading 3 poems, the first of which is called Doing Dishes by the Window at Both Ends of the Day. Early April. A pale egg yolk hovers behind new condos, its face too grainy to run, too grainy to brushstroke its light over the water. It sings high songs, trembling a hymn to sear marrow. Even the reptile puppeteers know the animal art of sky reading. After dark, the Empire State Building is set to beat its pointed empire heart cherry red. Glug, glug. Unclear what it beats for. Declaration, pride, mercy. Who exactly, it tells us, is still breathing. The next poem is called When the Plague Brings With It Dark Dreams of Scavengers, and there's a short preface. As of April 2020, Italy was one of the countries hardest hit by COVID-19. Its ports were deemed unsafe, so the few remaining search and rescue missions that assisted migrants seeking rescue from North African and Middle Eastern civil war, poverty, and climate catastrophe were forced to stop going out onto the Mediterranean Sea. As of April 2020, only one search and rescue vessel, the German Alan Kurdi, named after a Syrian toddler whose body was found on the shore in Turkey, was operating. 1. In the news, the same photos that told what is now tell of what isn't. As if the boats ever stopped pushing off into promises of diesel leak. The tilt bob weave through gray water is missing from the pictures. A man who lived to watch says, after August, the good people stop coming so much, the journalists. In autumn, there's no startling blue for underdogs and orange to high contrast in hope of rescue. But under July sun, what a pretty profile impending death can cut. Even better than drowning. A headline reads, I don't know of any law that says if you have a pandemic, you're allowed to let people die in the sea. As if all a law must do for dry foot to dry land, for move from unspeakable places to waiting places, is exist. As if all a law must do is say so. What would a law know about what it takes? About what to pick up and what to shed, how to keep up the project of living. A pregnant woman offers her calculation for how to decide when her blood, dirt, sweat money changes hands. Even for a pauper's grave, you need willing white people, masked, gloved, armored in white suits to protect themselves from you, but who will haul you up, cut the living from inside you, name your child, identify your dead. 2. A Canadian scientist dropped 3 carcasses in a body of salt water near Vancouver Island, British Columbia. Note the difference, body, carcass, corpse. What gets to be a body? What gets to be a useful remainder? What we deem worthy to bear the promise of grieving. Pigs, the scientist says, are the best model for humans. Roughly the same size, same gut bacteria, relatively hairless. People of the book have their reservations. Pigs have split hooves but do not chew their cud, unclean. Firefighters also abstain from their meat. They say it smells like human flesh on fire. Lessons in what kind of uncleanliness bears too unbearably the stink of kin. 3. Unlike the gut flora of the human and the pig, great white sharks feed happily on the unclean. For the avian and toothless, the more time spent floating on the water, the softer the flesh, the more give to the talon and beak. Supper bruised open by the afternoon sun until water replaces air in the lungs. Body, carcass, corpse. Larger carrion eventually join foodfall for Portuguese dogfish and blackmouth catfish. Both are sea sharks with a penchant for what will not float in the darkness. Not all parts of the body float. Not all parts of the body sink. Knowing how bodies degrade, says the scientist, can help manage expectations, can help manage the expectations of family members lost in the sea under 1,000 cameras, family members lost in the sea by every law that already exists, lost by the hundreds of boats that ignored the distress signals, lost in the ongoing blossom of NASA surveillance. Knowing how bodies degrade can help those whose deaths are pending. Knowing how bodies degrade can help manage expectations, help plague the nightmares of the family members of those about to be lost at sea. And my last poem is Self-Portrait Under Quarantine. Some of my favorite poets came together to read Araceli Girmay's You Are Who I Love. Incantatory as the street explodes in pots and pans for the heroes we martyr. May looms. There is no money. I tell my students, Document this moment with the details of your lives. Jeanette Winterson writes, art is not documentary. Its true effort is to open to us dimensions of the spirit of the self that normally lies smothered under the weight of the living. In other words, Jeanette Winterson accused me of saying to my students, "Bear yourself," while I remain elsewhere. She's asking what lives under the weight of the rise, rinse, commute, labor, commute. She's asking what images of my face. She's saying that images of my face are neither art nor documentation of my being alive. And yet, I check my phone and learn that we do this already as culture and call it power. Instead, what is smothered beneath is that I am dressed like something ceasing to exist. Waking is a canopy of hideous windows, creaking open and shut, while I lay with eyes as bare as peeled apples. The accidental geometry as they reflect the screen back to itself. The new interpersonal. We are all learning new things. For example, I am apparently a Haagen-Dazs ruby cocoa crackle pistachio sweet cream soul. Who knew? I cannot say this by reversing my camera and pointing from a high angle. But every day, my face babbles questions in the right-hand corner of the Zoom screen. Look at it, what we call a self. As if I have snuck my hand into its hollow to dance its lips, a talking fish. Every live thing has a cycle for its rotting. Every day sags with the weight hovering for pay. This is a selfie. Look, I'm sharing. Thank you. I am super excited to introduce our next poet. Jimena Lucero is a poet from Queens. She is currently an Emerge Surface B fellow at the Poetry Project. You can find her writing at EOAGH, colorblog.org, and more. Jimena is currently working on her first poetry manuscript. Let's give it up for Jimena.
Thank you, Ashna. I'm very excited to be here with all of you and to be celebrating Kay and everyone, every other reader. And thank you, Asian American Writers Workshop, Brandon, and the closed captioner. This is my family mourns acts. I walk into our house and Daniel says it's like a new roommate moved in. He keeps to himself, slams his door, and I hold on to a chair as though his force will shatter every light bulb. I am more tender because a school of butterflies make up my spine. My breasts are small, the nipples dark brown screws. My ring finger is still crooked, but now cautious of knives. Daniel and I speak silence better. Our wounds remain locked in the larynx. Jenny doesn't call for X anymore. She calls me Jimena. It was easier for her to rename me. She witnessed the burial, every trace of X erased, how the sun dried the bones and I ate them like I do my mom's blood orange rice. Jenny lists the ways in which we are similar. Both of us can form a village from our laughter, and both of us are women. Mom tells me she misses the way X danced around the house. There is more humor in boys, she says. We walk by the mirror hanging in the dining room. I tell her, look at that girl. Isn't she the most alive? The next poem is Gone From You. This is a new poem. And it is about surviving. Surviving. I moved away from you. Wind blows the flowering tree practically bare. Scratch my skin. The mistake, not one I can remember. Too many between us. leaving, gone, running, dying, all to get away from you, to never return, but maybe I still love you. Once you smashed my saint on the ground, broke its arms off, hated you. I have never been holy in your eyes, a loud whore, an unbelievable me. Without my saint's arms, I chose to believe in something else. Seashells connecting the ocean, stuck sounds to my ears, ocean over your voice, humming me to sleep, free and free and free. The last poem, because this is also a reading, a pride reading, is called Barbara Walters Knew I Was Trans. And I think one of the first times I saw myself reflected as a trans person was when I saw a documentary of Barbara Walters interviewing trans youth. And it left me, it left this really important impact on me. So this is a poem called Barbara Walters Knew I Was Trans. I was alone in my parents' bedroom. Their bed was queen-sized with snow-white sheets. The carpet was dirty with particles of paper and food crumbs. The bulky black television showed Barbara Walters interviewing boys, girls. Minutes into the documentary, I found out that they weren't girls, boys like my brother and my sister. Instead, they were like me. When they were told to behave a certain gender, they cried, "Clean doves from their eyes." One mother recalled her child saying, "Mom, I'm so mad at God because there was something wrong about her body." All of my soft-spoken prayers flew by my lips. I lowered the TV's volume with fear that someone would listen. My mother was in the kitchen cooking the orange rice I loved so much. She didn't understand English, but the body translates much of what is unsaid. Barbara Walters was captivating, a detective that wanted to know why these kids claimed to be girls, boys when they had been born boys, girls. She called them transgender, and I saw myself on television being scrutinized by a professional woman. Miss Walters walked into my room, asked me questions with that lisp of hers. Unlike those kids, I didn't have freedom to be myself despite the danger that was narrated by Walter's small lips. The words were cautionary: surgeries, medicine, therapists, and death. I heard my mother's steps. The door opened and damp light gleamed over my body. I changed the channel, and the smell of her rice made me hungry again. I followed my mother into the kitchen barefoot. I sat at the table and played with my food. My family never noticed how I fell into myself, how my identity was forming through words. I thought of my response to Barbara's question about being a girl in secret. I'd say still a kind of power. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jimena and Ashna and Brandon. Something I neglected to mention at the beginning is that there will be a couple of moments of rest in this program. So the first 3-minute break will happen after our next reader, and then we'll have another 3-minute break before the program is over. Our next reader is Cyrée Jarelle Johnson. Cyrée Jarelle Johnson is a writer and librarian living in New York City. His work has appeared in the New York Times, Boston Review, and Rewire News. He has given speeches and lectures at the White House, the Whitney Museum of American Art, the Philadelphia Trans Health Conference, and Mother Bethel AME Church, among other venues. His work has been profiled on PBS NewsHour, Rooted in Rights, and Mashable. Cyrée Jarelle has received fellowships and grants from Culture Strike, Leeway Foundation, Astria Foundation, Rewired News, Disabled Writers, Columbia University, and the Davis Putter Scholarship Fund. His first book of poetry, Slingshot, is available from Nighttime Books, and there is a link to it where you can order the book in the chat. Thank you, Cyrée.
I know that's my old bio because it's long. You know what I mean? I don't have a real long bio no more. But yeah, this is my book, Slingshot. First of all, congratulations, Kay. Not one, but 2 books. I'm so happy to be here celebrating more than organs. It's a complicated time to be alive, an artist. And I'm just gonna read some poems about some of that. The first one is called A Review of Hamilton, an American Musical, and it gets truer every single time because Lin-Manuel Miranda doesn't have any chill. If I could go back in time, which is a game I am sometimes forced to play, I would lynch George Washington standing there in step with slaves whose teeth he yanked out and wore for oil paintings and public appearances, also auctions to be sure. My boyfriend and I won the Hamilton lottery last week, $10, of course. Every beige actor singing on a wheel, oh, New York, greatest city, over a field of black bones scraped clean. The subway is also a boneyard. The papers won't tell me where, so I say everywhere, except nobody but nobody's cares what I think. I joined the organization because I wanted to practice holding America hostage. Huckleberry Finn stagecoach robbers 219 times the nigger. That's the hardest part of the whole thing. Nobody cares what I think unless I frighten them. Nothing ever resolves itself in America. No incentive you see. All fireworks are just replicas of some foreign bomb. They drop bombs and bronze sculptures for every genocide anyway. Somebody says we about to bomb North Korea. Nobody cares what I think. I think America is an experiment lit up by sparking wires. Oh, please, let it burn down this time. Okay. This second poem I'm reading because Kay was the one to accept this poem. I've had a lot of trouble getting these poems published, but I was very thankful when Kay selected this for Nat Brute's folio, and it's called Harold Mouthfucks the Devil. Harold is 52. He drives roundabout 66 miles on I-95 to and from the tube factory in Branchburg. He punched the glass over the speedometer yesterday. The automobile's tools of measurement are bloody, but he never checks them anyway. The cup holder clutches a 3/4 empty can of Budweiser. It's 6:15 in December and the moon is maroon in the black latex of the pine barren sky. His backseat is Tetris with cans of O'Doul's. Nice try, Harold. A white streak darts through the road as if chased. Harold's nausea pulls the strings beneath his tongue, presses his thumb into his throat. He opens the car door a little, its leatherette split from heat. It's as though his insides are tearing as puke punches through him, bileless, no longer containing food or even beer. He lays on his back and the puddle he made only an inch too shallow to drown in. A figure above him. Behold, a goat, its ocular golden cleft. Harold's bleary eyes peer and correct. The goat stands dripping stigmata and flexing bicep tattoos, solve, coagula. The goat has titties and a dude's face and no genitals to speak of. The thing no one ever told Harold about the devil is that when you see them, you get uncontrollably aroused, sexually. Harold doesn't like any gay shit. Ran his eldest stepchild off at 14, who is me, the narrator. Kicked his face and ribs until he fled, and in her fear, the mother called it justice. But here he is, cock stiff before the devil. The devil strides closer to Harold on cloven hooves and leather assless chaps, unbothered because they're the devil. And although the devil doesn't have a binary gender expression, it's still gay to Harold. The devil values consent, so they ask Harold if he would like a fellatio, and Harold nods and screams, yes, yes. 6 covens of genderless magical practitioners arrive for orgies nearby because the devil is into that. Everyone in the vicinity is on the verge of ecstasy when Harold starts to cry. The devil turns the burnt out cans of O'Doul's into piles of glistering gold coins, and we stimulate ourselves with their ridged edges. Harold snatches his box cutter from the pocket of his vacant jeans. He slits his own throat. He's dead, and he's gay, and he's not sure which is worse. Okay, yeah, being gay, that was great back in the sunshine when June was a thing we could do, have sex. This is a poem about those times when people were, having sex. That was great. Hopefully again soon, maybe. It's called Doppelganger. Whew, sorry, y'all. Queer utopians think human beings are perfectible, but we are not. We are just correctable. In an hourly motel, I recall that Kim Adonisio poem about tattoos and ask you how many you have, although I count 14 every time you doze, and as your spit, the mysterious stains on the pillows, but the ink proliferates in twilight sticky gold. Is a cover-up 1 or 2 or 3 tattoos? And how many about your forced disappearances? And how many about the appearance of manhood? And how many about being a man with his face buried in pillows? A short Black man hydroplaning down our impossible. I hate how much I love when you suck my toes, and I despise you for making me beg. That's why I can't know you. That's why I stay perpetually ahead of your judgment. You look just like me when I'm fucking you from behind. I'll suck that shrimp cock to the glove pot plus 1 extra watt before I figure it out. I don't know God anymore. But let's stay here on our knees and wait for him to come. Okay, my last poem. It's a downer. I don't know why I put this at the end. Let me just get my little page. Okay, great. It's called An 8-Year-Old with Asperger's Can Contemplate Suicide. The blue whale at the museum is lonely, missing all her Titan kin, face of plaster, veins of tin, she bellows her trauma in effigy. When I was a child on the lip of the woods, preachers lectured on Jonah's hubris, and I'd think, I don't need to know this. I just wanted to live in the sea. No good was religion. I'd set my inner visions on the brooks and the rivers that drained in the sea. A giver who held us in prison, but diluted their poisons with conch shells and salt memory. In Plato and felt, I'd sculpt blue whale and narwhal so deeply I felt I belonged to the sea. Thank you again, Kay, for letting me be part of this. Woohoo, more than organs. Yeah, Kay, rah, rah.
Thank you so much, Cyree. Thank you so much. We are going to take our first 3-minute break now. It is 7:36, and so we will start up again at 7:39, maybe 7:40. See you soon. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming back after that short break. And we have Ashna next, who will introduce the next writer.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Thank you, Tiffany. I'm very, very excited to introduce Jubi Arriola-Headley. He is a Black queer poet, storyteller, and first-generation United Statesian whose work explores themes of manhood, vulnerability, rage, tenderness, and joy. He's a 2018 PEN America Emerging Voices Fellow, and his work has been published or is forthcoming in Ambit, Beloit Poetry Journal, Nimrod International Journal, People's World, and Southern Humanities Review. Juby and his husband split their time between South Florida and Guatemala, and his first collection of poems, entitled Original Kink, drops this fall from Sibling Rivalry Press. Let's please give a warm welcome to Juby.
Thank you so much, Ashna, especially for putting a little extra stank on kink. I loved it. Thank you, Kay, for creating this beautiful space. I love you. Congratulations on your second book being published. It's a wonderful thing. You remain a role model for me. And I'm gonna stop talking now in case I get emotional. And let me also say, Ashna and Jimena and Cyree, y'all blew me away. And Cyree, if you're still here, if you have time to put a link to buy your book in the links, please do, because that will just, that'll be nurturing, that'll be food for me. I'm gonna read 2 poems, and I'm gonna read them without much introduction. The first one is called Peacocking. You're a boy, right? It's this silly game I play with myself, scavenging for scraps of conversation out of context, like peacocks in the Arctic, or tenderness expressed in baritone. And here in this department store, like every other I'd found it, a single word, sharp and swift to Fisher. Boy. Perhaps the boy had stared too long at the man behind the cosmetics counter, Gothic arches penciled in where eyebrows once grew. Perhaps the boy had lingered, longing, lusting, fingered the fabric of some skirt or blouse, as the man I can't imagine as his father dragged him through the misses section. This boy, broken, his stride, his spirit, while some woman I can only imagine called mother guided her gaze toward anywhere but this moment. She's long seated hope for something soft in the boy. I wish I didn't know the rest of his story. How butterflies won't so much settle in a boy's belly as slit their own throats for fear of flamboyance. How a boy must fashion his fists into ciphers for touch. How quick we are to teach a boy to cradle his hurt in his hands and preen. That was the first poem. The second poem is a little different, and it's called Superhero Origin Story. It's Easter morning, and though I hear I'm as likely to catch hell as be saved if I cross a church threshold, I find myself tripping over 5 young girls, not a one yet 16, belting "Ride On King Jesus." To my mind, the blackest hymn ever played. And oh, my sweet children, if you could just hear how those 4 sopranos and altos, a peer of each, race each other up a sainted ladder of notes and half notes, so as not to reach the heavens, but by grace to blast open heaven's door. So as for all of us to taste a minute of that great getting up morning, while the 5th sister does the yeoman's work, holding that bass line steady, making sure that ladder don't so much as wobble. And as if on cue, the firmament above me commences to burst and spill forth all over this green and gray earth, and a simpler man might have thought this some rogue omen, some bad juju. But I have seen the song that rain brings, and for a moment, for one infinite instant, I think my own tears are done with down and falling upward like my open palms to meet the rain for a hallelujah. And as I moved myself to twirl, to spin, to wail the words, "Ride on, King Jesus, no man can hinder me," I'm quick corrected by a neighbor. "It's thee, not me." I'm not so sure, friend. I hear that song, that unending crescendo. Feels like I'm the one who's unbreakable. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Juby. Thank you. Before I introduce our next reader, I just wanted to give everyone a quick reminder that we are also encouraging donations to Colectivo Intercultural Transgrediendo, a social organization that promotes the development of comprehensive cultural and social health of trans people and with gender diverse identities in the United States. You can find the links in the chat. On Facebook, it should be pinned, and in the chat here, we'll be dropping the link in for that. So thank you so much. Up next, we have Oliver Baez Bendorf. Oliver Baez Bendorf is the author of 2 books of poetry, Advantages of Being Evergreen and The Spectral Wilderness. His poems can be found in recent and forthcoming issues of American Poetry Review, Poetry, Bomb, and New England Review. And they were also anthologized in Troubling the Line, Trans and Genderqueer Poetry and Poetics. Please give it up for Oliver.
Hi, thank you so much. Juby, that was beautiful, by the way. Thank you to everyone who has poured labor and love into this event. Kay, congratulations on your new book, and thank you for making this occasion necessary. And it's good to be here with all of you. I'm going to read 3 poems, 2 of which are kind of new-ish, and the third one is from my book that came out in September, Advantages of Being Evergreen. Stonewall Sistina. Monumental bricks split open, heroic future cast in stone. Pleasure an angry parade, loving parade. Throw bricks from pleasure to open archives in better future. My future, a parade, receding in Bustelo bricks, so open about pleasure. Because pleasure portends future desire open. After parades make brick trafficking in representation. In bold pleasure, my brick rubs future clay parades. I'm open. Everyone's opening up in moans. Dogwood parades toward pleasure from future gravestones. Now we've walked in the open and know that pleasure. Everything takes place in between sensations and the future of planets. This queer parade, these blessed stones. Colony collapse. Begins without shelter in a storm. What I have to do next. I sleep best at anyone else's house. I like the ones that bees like. I think madness is colonization. I know grace is how I'm still alive. Shock of blue jay on an oxidized fence. I try to make a religious exception. Don't die of perfection. Heave along the goldenrod. Begin to live more together. I try to unravel Spanish ways of knowing. For example, crown on my head in an empty field. We plant lavender and let it grow bushy for the bees. Sexy how they feed on blooms. Pleasure, time, money, faith, yucca, evil, each one multiplies. We never eat alone. Come over, I will be a confidential lover to each one of you. Private things, private thoughts. We bake breadcrumbs into royal jelly. I love with every hand, horse, water, wind. If you wonder where to rear the young, if you too fall feverish after that communal feeling, swear to God, when I'm dead, I'll spend years waiting for the living to call, offer wine and dance. I need everyone I love. I'm too tired. Time to feed our missing before they come gone. Third eye is a glory hole. Doors open, soup's on. And this is the last poem I'll read. So thank you again. River I dream about. Moon river, swollen river, river of star hole and bright. Harness river, lichen river, river we velvet with our filth. River of butter and river of witches, river cracked open, careful like egg, or burst apart, unleashing its violet load. River mouths, river beds, every back 40 creek, every crick, made of trickles, made of synth. River of sound as vibration, river where we all get free. River that curves down a backbone, river through which I particle heat, feathery and wet, lemony and loud, river that still smells skin, browned around a neck, softened with sweat. River you wear tight on your hips, given in private or out in the open. River I dream about, river from the inside, river where we shouts the feeling. Septum river, bundle river, river of mercy, sometimes edging so far into night, the moon goes dark. Yes, all night river, burnt sugar river. We pull the river into our bellies, we go out walking. We river in darkness as entire paw prints of color and light. Everything rivers in motion, river of holy, river of freaks, river where my fur belonged to me. Softer than it seemed river, honey and Vaseline river, brown river, black river, off the map river. I will be there, printing textures of rock on the skin of me, belly down, face down. My God, it is good to be home. Thank you.
Whew, thank you so much for that beauty and that grit, Oliver. Our next poet is Natalie Sharp. She is a Black queer writer, dancer, and educator hailing from Savannah, Georgia, and based in Denver, Colorado. She completed her MFA in poetry at the University of Colorado Boulder. Natalie is a CNF Fellow for the Lighthouse Writers Workshop LitFest. She was a 2019-2020 Fulbright student in Armenia, a 2017 Lambda Literary Emerging LGBTQ Voices Fellow in Poetry, and a finalist for the 2017 Frontier Poetry Award for New Poets. Listen up, dangerous inclusion in this bio. If you propose to her in a Waffle House, she will probably say yes. Let's please welcome Natalie.
Thank you for that awesome introduction, Ashna. I think it is a dangerous inclusion, but here we are. Thank you so much to Kay, and congratulations. I love you like everyone else here. You're fantastic, and I'm honored to be called in to celebrate you. and to share space with all of these other amazing poets. I will be reading a couple of pieces this evening. The first one is for my brother. So a year ago, last week, my oldest brother took his own life. And like a lot of people, I'm thinking about what it means to be Black and alive in this country, and what it means to choose to be when there's always the option not to, and how do we keep living. So trigger warnings for suicide and gun violence. Flight risk. Some Black stories start with flight. Robert Smith hoisted himself onto a windowsill, his note proclaiming, "I loved you all." Velma Henry gazed down on her veins fat with bitterness and gas. Setha swung her babies in the air around her head before directing her impulse inward. But of course, the people who could fly couldn't bring their wings. My brother's self-prescribed ascent overshadows my consciousness like a man walking toward me with the sun at his back. Some sunsets I stride west at 6 p.m., distrustful of the way brightness can render every side blind. Shortly after my brother died, I learned I had a small abdominal hernia that would require surgical repair. A tough lump of fatty tissue brazenly protruded through it every time I ate. Rather than leaving it unattended, I chose instead to open under the bright lights of the OR. The surgeon pushed part of me back inside and wove the skin closed with fiber figure eights. The sutures dissolved, but the space still aches. He tells me the strands are braided for greater tensile strength, so they'll never break. His nickname was Little Ray, after my stepfather, a fitting name for men with radiant skin and smiles. I can think of any number of reasons this man is difficult to write about, besides the obvious horror of the situation. Because we weren't close, he already grown and gone by the time my mother married his father, or maybe because it's too close to home. Talking to my stepdad that day, I said, I can't imagine what he was going through, but I can. I too am intimate with the specter of our parents' proclivities, to liquor, to sadness, to love. Addressing Setha and Beloved's mutually self-destructive relationship in Beloved, Katie Ryan writes that their refusal to forget constitutes revolutionary suicide. They risk safety and life, knowing the alternative means an intolerable existence. Maybe being a Jehovah's Witness for half my life predisposed me to a few traits germane to revolution: a readiness to die for truth, countercultural impulses, a penchant for awkward conversations about taboos with strangers, but not to an actual framework for civic engagement. As proselytes, we vacillated between two modes, heroic or blood guilty. I spent the entirety of my teens aggravating neighbors and searching news reports for doomsday signs, governments turning on so-called false religion, families severed by the sword of Jesus' words, sky and earth alike seared black with death. When you believe the world is always inching toward oblivion, it's nearly impossible to get too riled up about anything. If there is unmitigated suffering, it is only fixable by greater than human means. Even the prayers of Jehovah's chosen people do nothing. We performed our noble preaching duty, then waited on an angel to fly in and find us worthy of saving. A couple of weeks after my surgery, while I was out dancing at a local queer bar with friends, headlights spilled onto the floor from outside. Watching the Black DJ's face cast in fluorescence, I crouched under a table, close to a wall away from the windows. Many times I have imagined what it will feel like to be shot. I have wondered whether I will survive my friends, whether I should just take the leap and excise myself from a life in fear of light. Over and over again, with both disbelief and hope, incredulity's occasional other face, my stepdad said, he shot himself, he shot himself, he shot. I said, oh my God, and asked the human questions, have you eaten? He said, only coffee. I remember the laughable sandwich a stranger brought me when my father died, the sort of nourishment that made me sick despite itself. I wasn't trying to be callous. I just know we pain our bodies when our hearts are exhausted. I said, I can't imagine losing a child. I'm so sorry. Reflecting later on the conversation, I thought maybe I'd been disrespectful in some way. I waited weeks for another call that never came, but there are worse ways to disinvite your daughter to a funeral. Some days I imagine getting to know him, as other siblings do once everyone reaches adulthood. I'm so glad you told me how you were feeling, I began. I worry over reducing Ray to the manner of his death. His wittiness shone like a lamp under a basket. Occasionally, he'd lift the woven wicker of his closed mouth and let the glow warm us. I'm in love with a woman whose name is Arabic for the halo around the moon, she tells me. Some days I imagine praising her to my family, like other adults get to talk about their partners with their parents. We met in a knitting circle at a coffee shop, and I had no idea we'd get here within 2 years, I'd begun. I feared denying her the dignity of her complexities in a rush to slip a word in around their prejudice. How would they receive her in a different life? 2 years ago, when I wrapped a belt around my neck and flirted with absence, she called me up just to check in. She says she loved me, even then, underneath her consciousness. She cares deeply for her friends and for herself in a way that makes me want to care about my friends and myself too. But in this moment, love feels like an inevitable curse, knowing as I do the proximity of light to lifelessness. I contemplate my brother's brain, the inner softness aching to escape, his sweet face guarding all that pain. I take my glasses off to blur the world when it's all too much, every victim of a foreign or domestic war against their skin. Too often, the palimpsest and the new composition are equally untenable. The conundrum of this body is a fall at terminal velocity, mouth open, choking down the wind. I choose expansion anyway, even in the moments when I'd rather not. I calculate my risks. In the other version of this story, I harden and withdraw, gorge myself on injury and rage. There is no space on this page for anyone else to starve on the illusion of satisfaction. On the days I can't bear staying, I remember I love everyone too much to leave so soon, that the longer you live, the more you can do. Okay. And I don't like to close on that note. It feels very much like a wound. And yeah, I think, I don't remember who said it. I'm so sorry. But yes, this is also a pride reading. So this next piece is a short one that I wrote for the incredible Black woman I have the privilege of loving and being loved by. It's called Jojoba. This is the type of touch reserved for somebody you trust, to put my head down and tell you, baby, do what you must. You comb through, pour oil, my hair is drinking it up. You say your scalp is thirsty, it's not nourished enough. The truth is, I don't always love me like you do. Drowning in self-loathing, no way out but through. The world says I should hate people who look like you, people who look like me, who love like we do. I refuse. You my favorite hip hop scholar, my ace gon' coon from 18 till infinity. We ride out to it, the best surprise, the way your love has transformed me. How you make me want to change yet become more me. I pick the coal out your eyes, get the crevices clean. Take a good hard look at what loving you means, give you the keys to the house, knowing you could fuck it up, but you won't. Knowing you could stay silent about BS, but you don't. I want to hold you up the same way that you hold me. Like, ooh, la la, are we free? You the new flavor in my ear, on my tongue till I met you. I pronounced it Jojoba. Not since gray combs and Oprah, since collards and okra back home, since teenage braids, since the sad years, the whole shit was the kitchen. Since not the one, since smile to keep from dying, since danger, since 16, don't touch me, I'll do it myself. I lay my head in your lap and you scratch at my scalp. This private care impossible with anyone else. Thanks for listening, y'all. And congratulations again, Kay.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Up next, we have Eddie Maisonet. And then after Eddie reads, we will announce another 3-minute break. Eddie Maisonet is an interdisciplinary storyteller, teaching artist, and performer who was born, raised, and based in Boston, Massachusetts. Eddie is a Black Barracuda, chronically ill, queer, non-binary boy who balances writing with a love of dogs and his dog training certification studies. Please give it up to Eddie.
Hey everyone, Natalie, that was a dope as hell. So my name's Eddie. I am a storyteller reading for y'all out of my new apartment in Boston. So I've moved several times since the pandemic closed down the state, and it's been really hard. I'm excited to share the poetic victory of a Black trans person having secure housing, and I'm here, and for that I'm grateful. I'm honored to be among the people who can come together sharing our art to uplift the work of my lovely, smart, handsome, dog-adoring friend Kay. Our friendship has been important to me as I understand myself as a sick, disabled, queer artist trying to write my dignity into existence alongside a healthy helping of cute dogs. This piece is an excerpt of a piece called Battery of Tests. There is no single test to diagnose ADHD. I threw myself into the battery of tests, over 10 hours of interviews and appointments. In the mail, I received a 10-page report, the most comprehensive health exam I have ever received. Later, they explained why I had been doing memory, drawing, writing, sequencing exercises. I cried when I got the report. On that day, despite the prick of she and her, I learned that I was dysthymic, anxious, and another Black kid with ADHD. Western medicine has often scorned and harmed me, but there was great comfort in the diagnosis. There's a way I cried, ugly, hiccuping, untethered, feeling seen in sharp focus in a way I could never have seen myself, and I was scared. I met myself that way when Beasts of the Southern Wild taught me that when Beasts of the Southern Wild put me in the space between being a daddy's girl who learned fathers aren't different from other men, constantly mourning that. And there, held by my non-binary platonic life partner, who my father did not have the language to understand. Nowhere to be but in between. I looked at the report then the same way I do now. The person in the report is still me, my symptoms only legible when read through the syndrome of Black girlhood. The impasse, the discrepancy in my above average oral and verbal comprehension and below average expression. They put onto the page the feeling that made me stop writing, where my words moved too fast in my head and my hand never kept up. My sieve memory left me little to hold on to. But narrative comes up in the report as where I excel. In a 10-minute exercise, I wrote about a time I was scared, and they told me her story was powerful and that her voice as a writer was present and her audience could identify with her story. I used to love the fish tank in the pharmacy where my family got our medical care. I was, as inattentive children are prone to doing, entranced. And thus I got left for like 10 minutes before my mom remembered me and then drove back. It's really funny to me now, but little Eddie was scared and pissed. I have a learning difference. Even though I'm way beyond undergrad, my attention and depression are a bonded pair with woven lives. When I know better, I try to do better. The knowledge forced a slow change in habits, but forced me to have to build a new relationship with the ways my differences show up. They make me. I can remember the names of dogs I've never met, that's how I remember humans, and can feel when it's time to shake my fruit trees in Animal Crossing every few days. But don't ask me to go into a store without a list, and don't ask me what day it is. I'm fortunate enough that the people who love me have accepted it, work with my operating system, and find me charming enough that it can be seen as an endearing quirk. My voice is genuine to how I experience time and memory. There's a beauty in how my memory timelines waver, flicker, popcorn, veer, loop. Memories previously rigid to linearity can play when memories sit next to one another like collage pieces. Through rhythm, through mining documents, through quotation and reference, through channeling the comforting swaddle of the stories that fed me through an adolescence hungry enough to have connection. Hungry to have enough connection. Through living in the queer of my 27-year-old self, he having hair and muscle, the places she watched bitterly. Sitting with the girl who is the core of the boy, we integrate him and her. He validates her so he may learn to love his truth. Memory can be shaped like Lego bricks before a Black kid twice as hard, half as far primers clip imagination. Even when not understood, sitting with a story is its own transformation. I am the most free when all the parts of me can express the way they need to, when they need to. There is no single way to get the whole answer, but there is a battery of tests one can do, and I can piece something beautiful together. Cool. So thank you for that. Oh my God, I love the comments. All right, so this is a short piece. It's called Egg Cream / New Normal. Healer affirms I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Spirit and community got me.
3 summers at an ice cream shop, I made 2 egg creams. One during training, it found the drain. Brash Boston accent ordered a chocolate one. Seltzer, syrup, milk. Manager told me it is a Great Depression vestige. Who'd choose this over real rich ice cream? We have a deep need for richness, sweetness, especially when everything is falling apart. I find myself with roommate discussing shortages, using 3 squares or less of toilet paper per trip. I find myself offered 90-day refills, teletherapy, newly live stream events I didn't even have to ask. I find myself full off smelling roommates' clever use of overripe banana, a lone cup of applesauce, pantry oats ground, dry roasted nuts, a vegan, gluten-free recipe worth repeating. I find myself before the man I can't touch yet, and he finally becomes my boyfriend. Through a screen, we shower one another with words and quality time. I find myself remembering our fingers intertwined between us in his car. Queer internet adolescence prepared me for love when touch is dangerous and impossible. I find myself in a new home during a pandemic, in a new normal. If I make it, I embrace this. Never thought I would understand the urgency of an egg cream until I adapted my idea of what makes a treat sweet. I affirm I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be and think everything, I'm anything but alone. Thanks, y'all. Congrats again, Kay.
Thank you so much, Eddie. And now we are going to take our last 3-minute break. It is 8:11 now, and so we'll see everyone at 8:14. Thanks so much.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Hope you're feeling refreshed from that lovely mermaid music. Folks, we are here celebrating Ulanday I Barrett's second book, More Than Organs, and it is gorgeous. The link is in the chat box should you wish to purchase it. We are here to celebrate Pride. We are also here to raise money for Colectivo Intercultural Transgrediendo, so please search for that link in the chat box and donate. Our next reader, I'm super excited to introduce him and a little starstruck, frankly. Rajiv Mohabir is an Indo-Caribbean American author. His award-winning debut collection, The Taxidermist's Cut, an exploration of sexuality and culture, was selected by Brenda Shaughnessy for the 2014 Intro Prize in Poetry by Four Way Books and a finalist for the 2017 Lambda Literary Award in Gay Poetry. Mohabir's second collection, The Cowherd's Son, won the 2015 Kundiman Prize. Winner of the inaugural Chapbook Prize by Ghostbird Press for Acoustic Trauma, he is the author of 3 other multilingual chapbooks, Thunder in the Courtyard, Gajari Poems, A Veil You'll Cast Aside, and Namash Me Bone and Nabarai Me. Let's give it up for Rajiv Mohabir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashna, for that introduction. Thank you to everybody who is reading tonight and to everyone who is listening in your homes or wherever you are listening to us all tonight. I want to say congratulations also to Kay. This is so fabulous to be celebrating you. And Tiffany, also thank you. And Brandon, and Ashna again for your labor here. And just, I'm so starstruck to be in the midst of such wonder. The first poem that I'm going to read for you, I am putting the words into the chat. So if you want to have a look at those, you can. And it's called Dominion. And it starts with an epigraph. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Genesis 1:26. A mandrake quickened into greed grab, tore a page from Genesis. Clods of earth are clods of God. Clods of earth are clods of dendrites with dirt skirting the roots. Let there be light, skins, and colored skins, one to rule the other. Manifest destinations of evening's pitch plague the heart's thirst for extinction. Memory of the untouched is the more beautiful object. From the streets, a humpback's gashed fin laments this justice, its skin scarred with extinction's dusk, body owned by light. I strike a candle against ruin, against the separation of day and night. And I have 2 other short poems that I will read for you. The thing that I will say about this next poem, it's called Beached Whale Dream. And I am kind of on a theme here, so bear with me. Beached Whale Dream. Was it gray or rorqual? Imagine your body unable to bear your meat's weight, lungs speared by rib. Your language no longer passes through the substance of water, its yield lost. I sell silver at the temple. Come, upend my table. I have prayed long for a miracle body that withstands the holy people. What if I said, that a man hunts the beast for a photograph in the name of God. And my unlettered heart blasphemes in the sand. Look at the grains under my fingernails. I have faith. O mountain, O silver body, O morning light, shuddering on the water's tight skin. What we have wasted is lost. A divot in the earth, where a body once lay. The last poem that I'll read is called Curse. And it's about my learning to daily come to terms with illness that I live with. Curse. What wonder to learn what counts as miraculous. The Messiah pointed his finger to the barren branches. What fruit was to fatten into fig perished in a sucrose imbalance. A miracle. I am a mountain thrown into the sea. When the disciples returned, they were astonished to see my pancreas wither. The doctor dialing back the insulin pen. 20 units. I, a son of a well-sugared man. The Son of Man, enraged with my body, said, "Stop." And like any good bastard, my body obeyed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. And now it is time to introduce our honoree of the evening, who also curated this spectacular lineup, Ulanday Barrett, whose latest collection, More Than Organs, is available linked into the chat room. Named one of the 9 transgender and gender nonconforming writers you should know by Vogue, Ulanday Barrett, aka @Brown Round Boy, is a poet, performer, and cultural strategist. They have been featured in numerous places, including the Lincoln Center, the UN, and Symphony Space, and they were also named a 2019 Them and Condé Nast Quiroz Literary Honoree. A 2-time Pushcart honoree and Best of the Net nominated by Split This Rock in 2019, More Than Organs, published by Sibling Rivalry Press, is their second collection. Currently, Kay lives outside of the NYC area with his jowly dog and remixes their mama's recipes whenever possible. Thank you so much, Kay.
Hey, everybody. I want to really quickly thank AAWW. For this book, it's my second. As a trans POC person, I never thought I'd make it to one book, more or less 2. And AAWW, Tiffany, Bushra, Rob, especially, have nourished my work from the first book till now. So I want to thank you all especially. And every person who read today, isn't it fire? Like, aren't people brilliant? Like, what? Like, I'm sorry. It's hard to follow up with that. Like, I appreciate you all, and I'm blessed by you all, and thank you for supporting my work. If you saw on Instagram, all I've been doing is fussing with my hair, and this is what they want to do now, so that's what we've got. I think to survive this pandemic, I took lessons from my aunties, and here's a poem for them. Aunties love it when the seafood is on sale. Argyle Red Line, Chicago, Illinois. In summertime, the women in my family spin sago like planets. Make even Saturn blush. They split the leaves of kangkong with riverbed softness. They are precise. Measure rice by palm lines with laughter and seasoned broth. Made from creatures' last gasps, you'd swear that they were teenagers again. Talking gossip, stretching limbs, elastic, durable, like seaweed. Come dinner time, skilled mouths slurp over domes of shrimp and crab. This is not a vegan poem. My aunties, they prize the fat. The angles of their teeth splinter claw, snap sinew, dip tart into sweet, then back again. Bitterness balanced. Succulence on succulence is to find flesh from even the smallest of spaces. Women who swallow whole, who make a pile of bones, who suck teeth and taste every morsel until all that is left is a quiet room and shells of what once was. To the daughters of dried fishnets, whose hands, whose dreams dragged on sand, dragged to this country, they bring home recipe years later, flick joints to garlic, salabat to the sick, culinary remix, teach my cousins, hoy, this is how you stay alive in this cold country. Morning in the Midwest by taste bud. Afterward, they keep the ocean husks for another meal because to get a good deal is to double. And anybody from the island will tell you that that is where the true flavor is. And what is hunger anyway? But the carving out of emptiness, the learning you gotta always save something for later. Thank you. You know, I gotta open up with a poem about food because that's who I am as a person. Okay. I mentioned this thing called salabat, and it's one of my favorite hot beverages. And it's really just this ginger tea that steeps and steeps. And so, how to make salabat. Oi, listen, this is how to cut the ginger, huh? It's a root, she said from Chicago basement on the first snow of the year. It's the 90s. Snow is a big deal. Tear salt, missing ocean salt. She cleared her throat. See, based on where we're from, nothing can prepare us for frozen. Fast forward. College friend asks, hey, how do you make that tea again? Yeah, the one you used to drink when it started to snow. I wanted to say my ma is dead. She made this every time it began to snow. I buried both my parents by age 25. Have you called your mother? Have you checked to see if there's a tumor slowly growing under her skin, slowly living under her skin? What I recall most is her crying, which is a lot like any drink really, a pouring, which reminds me of something a friend once mentioned. If you only write about crying and death, nobody will buy your books. What I really do is listen to that same voicemail over and over, where my mother's throat is miles away, mouthful of liquid, steeped tea bags for lungs, just waiting for the right time to let go. And what I actually want to say all the time is grief. Grief is the full-time job. What I say to my friend only mentions directions, which leads one to think about when my mother finally went back. A visit, she coined it. Vacation, which was code word for good. 2 weeks later, she says in calling card staccato, I'm in bad shape, anak, which is migrant code for death. Words have multiple meanings. My mama taught me that. And in essence, she was my first poetry instructor. This is how a mother tongue is whittled dull. Abandoned building, once a home. When mother dies, I couldn't say that phrase for years. Couldn't say she's dead. How in 3 languages, I don't have words for this absence. A mouth becomes thud. English becomes harder to swallow. Did you know that on the worst days, I forget what her favorite song was? But the tiny eruption of her cough repeats in loop all the time now. Thank you so much. This next poem, I think, I really want to uplift how non-Black POC and white people can really show up for Black folks and what that isolation looks like, how white supremacy, how non-Black POC, how we swallow that white supremacy too, right? And it creates isolation. And so, please, for Cyree, Eddie, Juby, everybody on there, Natalie, if you love their work, buy it. If you support their work, buy it. And a project I want to shout out by Dane and Didi Figueroa and James III is the Black Trans Prayer Book. So please support trans Black people, support Black and disabled and femme people. This poem was inspired by my instructor, Samia Bashir. Tell a child about something you fear or dread. With gratitude to Samia Bashir. It's okay to just be wounded sometimes, to gape, to cry, to rock, to shiver, to rumble, to ramshackle, to shiver, to shake ancestors in your sleep, to be part dead, to razor, to lash, to hammer, to hang, to be the thing that flails, to be cathedral, to be gravestone, to speak cobweb. Let me tell you, to die every day is the kind of pulse that makes music, to be the kid who leans against books more than people, to be the book as it opens, closes, folds in on itself on the same paragraph, to be that underlined stanza whose body bursts scars, syntax naked, love body, when it emblazons family curse, when you're a bad joke at the table, when your shuffled scrapes of forks, the weirdo told to shut up, forsaken. Let lonely make a lens so clear you become intergalactic. Let the residue be a blanket you shed every season. Let your gaze be salve and sign of the cross. Let you blessing no one understands. Let you be words a stranger waits for. Let love be bunker you crawl into. Let you guffaw. Let you cackle. Let you be last one left. Let you be last one. Let you be last. Let you be. Let you. Let. Thank you. I got 2 more poems. Shiri Moraga has this poem, Loving in the War Years. And so this poem is kind of my version, I think I wrote it in 2018, perhaps. I think it was like, oh shit, Trump is elected. Apocalypse. Here we are. But also with apocalypse comes revolution and Black liberation. So let's get into it. This is for all the white cis gays who have money. If you didn't see it, bling. Loving in the war years or loving in the apocalypse years. 1, when friends mention ravaging, it's not bumpy face. Now headlines lacquer our skin. Courtrooms do as they always do, pillage. On TV, channels construct. Boy, woman, child, sister, mother, many children, many bodies, women, many. The body count is at 12 now. As of June 2018, trans women, Black, brown skins, we've got another altar. Street corners made constellations. all the while, they hold up big rainbow flags and bellinis, drink corporate sponsorship like vitamins, vacay packages, and muscled pecs, tan lines. In the gayest of cities, as many as chalk lines on the concrete. None of this is our land. 2. Today, today, my student texted me shaking. My lover woke up, cracking throat into screams, her arm always at pill's length. My client rocks back and forth, ebbing. They're gonna deport my parents. They're gonna deport my parents. My sibling seizes tremors at the SSDI office, hasn't written stanza in weeks. My mother whimpers in her grave, hopes this world will just get its shit together. And my father is in a podunk cemetery, and a court refuses the pollution that killed him. Why does the sound of laughter have a bullet behind it? Why does a fist, circumference of the heart, hold its heckles up in place? How can this universe be pillow and not landmine? What ways do I make my soul a swallowing and shield? 3, please tell us, how do we stay afloat when I am too busy stockpiling canned goods, trying to build a shelter of everyone I meet? Thank you. All right, so I want to thank everybody for being here, all my chosen fam, all of y'all here. Thank you, readers, every last one of you, from Ashna, Natalie, Eddie, Jimena, Rajiv, Oliver, Juby. I hope I got everyone because I have no spoon. Cyree, please. And please, let's give it up for Brandon doing ASL interpretation. Brandon, there's a link down there, Venmo Brandon, and give that love for that extra access and hard work. This last poem is a signature poem. It's called Right to Release. Content warning for poop and for making fun of water signs. Thank you, everybody, for supporting my work and my book. This is it. It's very cute. Thank you, Sibling Rivalry Press, for all of this. Thank you, publishers, for believing in my work. And thank you, universe, for watching over me. For the longest time, I dreaded bathrooms. The bleach singeing my nostrils, I pictured my brown mama in every white person's house, scrubbing tile, making what other people took for granted shine. In airports, I clench my bladder. I could hold it until a third floor walk up in Harlem could turn bloody. See, there's this story that every trans person mouths when they have to go to the bathroom. It's beyond guttural. It's more than the bladder. It goes something like this. I am real. I am real. I am real shit. I really have to go take a piss. And if what they say is true, that bathrooms are where we are all our most human, then I'm a dilapidated National Geographic. Barely mammal, told to leave, even in the dirtiest of places. Example, brown girl lowers her register like she's of cobwebs and steel, slouches in a baggy shirt, goes beeline for that stall, doesn't want to wash their hands for fear of strangers to scrape off stairs in daydreams the next day and the next until his hands make pillows. Because even in your dreams, people can still get your pronouns wrong. Next. They are told that as a boy, BOI, that they are in the wrong place. So to drink a cup of water is a hazard in waiting. And honestly, I wish I could just shit on every curse, on every time some trans woman turns threats when she just wants to see herself in full length glory. Once a month, I want to announce Shark Week, and I want to build a structure of blood that would make Rapunzel or J.K. Rowling shiver, and it would take the crimson to write. I'm real. I'm real. I'm real. You don't have to punch it out of me. A bruised eye like a swollen gourd, a kicked rib, the density of a smashed plum. Do you know how long it takes for me or any trans person to maybe accept a hug? Here is my blood. Its sacrilege ascends the repellent stairs, for hormones or not, I am no waste of time dumping drowned to let you, in your terrors, haunt me in a whisper. Guess what? Shh. Spoiler alert. You aren't normal either. You aren't real either. That locker room hush, that road trip bus stop stink, that fast food restaurant stain on your shirt. Forgive me. We know how this story ends, but do we? Is it so wrong to just want to clench your jaw in the light, praise any shape of chest in the fluorescence, catalog and alter from my hips to the new hair on the chin, sit alone on the throne in leisure, checking Tinder or Instagram, and not be headline, not be gravestone, not be erased, not be dead named, not hashtag, and most certainly not become ash. And though I'm never clean, I'm never gonna be. The colonization that forced my family here damn well made sure of that. But what I do know is this: a brown migrant woman and her transgender child cannot grow up in your shit. Can I just feel the way the water is from the tap on my knuckles, like baptism? Because we as humans, we are 60 to 70% water. And though I'm never clean, let me tell you, the tide of the ocean beats inside me, inside my people. Look, have you ever tried to contain a wave or, date a water sign like a Pisces or a Cancer? So many feelings. No matter what, nothing can take away their right to release. Thank you so much, AAWW. Thank you, siblings, family, friends, and wonderfuls for being here. And thank you for supporting my work.
Thank you so much to Kay. Thank you so much to Brandon. To my co-MC, Ashna, the rest of the readers, Eddie, Natalie, Oliver, Juby, Cyree, Rajiv. Am I missing anyone? I don't think so. Thank you so much to Kay. And thank you for being here, everyone.
Everybody, please give love to Rob, to Tiffany, and to Bushra for throwing this together in these pandemic times.
Hey, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everybody. Please have a blessed night.
Have a good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.